Today we have 3 stories to share, all having to do in private actions. Each one of the stories has to do with 3 of the current party members that we have. One of them gets neglected. Just guess at this moment which one is going to be neglected here. First, we got to go back in time a little bit to when we first got Celine, because weirdly enough, you were able to do this right before you go to Cross Cave. Just kind of spend some time with Celine, go inside, have some tea with her. You can decline, but that will just completely stop the private action. So there's no reason to do that, of course. I think what's wrong is that the owner of this restaurant has green shoes. Always one of those people. Again, if you want to turn tail and leave, that's the end of the private action. But you can go forward and pay. Yes, this is enabling behavior. We don't need to actually do this. So I had a question come into my head. What happens if you don't have 10 full to pay the fee? It actually doesn't matter. Even if you have less than 10 full, just the text pop-up doesn't show up. Celine will still pay, you just won't lose any money. We're paying to diffuse the situation here, and then we gotta go elsewhere. Including our very familiar-looking sprite. He's just more fancy-looking. No, you don't. We don't get his name. Right. Think of a name. Think of a name. Right. Think of any name that gives it and starts with a C. And this is a really blunt lesson that Celine just puts out there. Just like, yeah, you can't expect for people to save you when you make a mistake, especially social faux pas. Amazing how many people out there who expect for that to happen. Oh, hey, Claude. Look at you down there. Didn't see anything that happened there. No siree. For some reason, Celine is thinking about him. All of these stories have multiple parts to them, where it's like once you finish one part, you have to leave the town, go back in order to begin the next part. For instance, there he is again. Celine doesn't play around. Oh, certainly not. I must I must fetch my security friend. And awkwardly, Rena is now the third wheel in that whole situation. Sorry, Rena. You have to go hide in the alleyway of all things. That is what you do with your eyes. Did I just witness something? Something happened? Yes, indeed. Yeah, so with that private action, you do have to reset there. Just want to find my boy. And then head on back. And occasionally with some of these private actions, there will be a change in what is actually shown when they all get back together. I love that we completely miss the confession. Oh, by the way, let's go cave diving. With that, we head back, and the next one is a really awkward one in order to get, because you really don't know where you kind of have to go, and it's not obvious because the characters don't show up anywhere. You just have to kind of go all the way to the end of the alley and then head back. And uh-oh, Rena has to play third fiddle again. I feel bad for being in that situation there. And I can only imagine that the boy is in that spot still, and it's like, hey, what are you doing over here? All you said was one word. We will never know what that word is. God forbid we know how to get to a woman's heart with just one word. Man, they really throw Chris as someone who can make such a fumbling first impression, and then all of a sudden, someone like Celine has just kind of fell for him completely. Maybe you shouldn't move, Rena. Bad idea. Let's not get into this. So if you remember, going around Cross Castle a little while ago, the handmaidens and the maids were mentioning how someone was missing from the castle. That being the prince. Yeah. What can he honestly say other than the obvious at this point? Except that's exactly what he did. He did the exact same thing as the beginning of this interaction, where it's like, I never meant for any of this to happen, but this is what happened. Except this time, Celine isn't going to talk sense into him this time. And I've never really gotten the pronunciation of his actual name. It's either Clother or Clother. I think it's Clother. You speak like a commoner. Goodbye, being dragged away. Now here's the awkward thing I have with this scene with Rena and Celine. Because, again, you can do this immediately after you get Celine, before you go to Cross Cave. And you only have a certain amount of time for this private action sequence, all the way until you get to the continent of Liqueur, to the capital. So that's not a lot of time to do this. So it becomes this disconnect between the amount of time you see Rena and Celine together versus in-game, how long has Rena and Celine really known each other together when they're in the party? Because here, man, they really put in the dialogue that's like, yeah, they've kind of spent some time with each other. So, you can completely dismiss and have Rena just leave in frustration, or Rena can just drag Celine over in order to make sure we follow through with this. If you get frustrated, that halts the private action completely. You can't even talk to Celine. She's just stunned, stuck in indecision, and cannot do anything. No text box, only ellipsis. Apart from that, well, the church is completely blocked off, because that is where the wedding is supposed to be happening right now. Stop loitering around. I think there would be a lot more people kind of around knowing that the wedding was supposed to be happening today, but I guess not. And it's good that they have a fourth soldier right there just to make sure that you're not able to get around to the other side there. And shockingly, when you leave, Celine has nothing to say about the whole thing. So yeah, that's obviously not what you're supposed to do there. Instead, if Chris is going to be dragged to the wedding, we're going to drag Celine there. But how could we possibly get around the soldiers? Well, there's a gap at least. I guess you weren't with the other three. Oh, never mind. They've changed their tune. Just want to talk. That's all we want to do. We have laser beams and we're not afraid to use them. This is a very awkward wedding. But then again, when you have the prince and a princess being married together, it feels like it's more political than it is by love. Especially when the princess is of liqueur. So yeah, when you are marrying two royal families together of different continents, it definitely feels political. No public. Although there may be one person behind the pillar over there, I can't even tell. Didn't even go into anybody object? Oh, see, even Chris spells it out. She is taking this extremely well. Well, soldier, you better get on it. Get that dress made. Yeah, Rena shouldn't be here. This is a very awkward place. It's just like, yeah, definitely feeling third wheel. Hey, Celine, after all this, you gotta say something. Because even if you say nothing, that is a no. Like, everything that isn't yes is almost a no. I am part of a RPG party. That means I have a huge non-contextual journey to go to that I have no idea where it's going to end up, but I got to get to that end before I come back here. And honestly, when I come back here, this is going to be the most mundane thing that I could possibly do. When I come back, I'm going to be completely unrecognizable. And while I'm with everyone, I'm just gonna have some fun. When I'm a princess, then I'll stop having fun, I suppose. And that is it for Celine's specific private action. Doing that all the way to the end unlocks a special ending. It can be overwritten depending on other factors, including relationship points. But for the most part, if you're doing this, most likely you're going to be seeing that specific ending for Celine. Now, we had a little bit of taste of Hurley, mostly because we were able to get Ashton. But on Rena's perspective, there's a couple of things that Hurley is able to provide for us in terms of side stories. Because, to be honest, in terms of Claude's part, if you're only doing Claude's perspective, Hurley is just a town you kind of skip over and really don't think about all too much. But with Rena's side, there's a lot more going on. For instance, Ashton just going over there. No real idea of what her means in this context, but based on what the woman said, there's a girl here. Most likely her house. Eleanor's house. I have no idea how I'd be able to leave this room based on where everything is. But we needed something to start off this story. The fun thing about it is that Eleanor doesn't even bat an eye about Gyoro and Ururun just being there. It's just like, you're a traveler. Well, you're pretty cool. Now, you can just leave, or you can just be honest and kind of head in here, which gives you a little bit more to do. I don't think we're a high enough level to deal with terminal illness. Because I don't think even Dispel will work. You can imagine certain JRPGs tropes where it's like, if you are hit with a certain status ailment, you're able to just go like, okay, what status ailment are you afflicted with? And they would be able to just like produce a card and go, this one. And they would look at it and go, oh, yeah, we can deal with that. And then Eleanor is just like, I've already given up hope. Don't fret about it. I can't even count the number of doctors who have seen me. My goodness. What a bleak thing to say. Yeah, we have this small little Ashton story And even in her room is the Ring of Sadness. Man. I'm really setting up everything going on here, isn't it? Meanwhile, completely out of context, we have Celine going, "This is a harbor town. There's lots of fish here." Thank you, Celine. So helpful. The other kind of helpful thing is with Hurley, when it comes to the events of Click, in the hotel here, you could find refugees of Click here and they're able to figure out like where they want to go next in order to kind of rebuild their lives, which is an extra piece of world building, which is actually kind of cool that they did. You do have to go out of your way in order to find these people. But when you do, I don't know, I feel like it's worth it. Where's Claude? Over here. And he's letting his secret slip again. I think men on any world. What do you mean by that, Claude? Why would you use that word? Anyway, how does our story with Ashton and Eleanor continue? Well, it speeds along. The illness is illnessing. We gotta split up and do what we can. I don't know what it is about the sprite of the Doctor, but I find him funny. Mainly because he is deceptively short. Almost potato-esque in terms of how tiny his arms are as well. He's a little bit of a caricature. Almost Christmas means it's not Christmas. The legends of this okay, something wasn't proofread here, but otherwise the Doctor is from another world. But yeah, he says if you pick up the herb Matox, hey, you can save this girl. Surprised that they brought over the Matox name from the first game. Because, yeah, I was thinking of Mount Matox in my head. But it's not called Mount Matox here. And I think it would absolutely help if Eleanor's sprite at least had a closed eyes form. But unfortunately, they didn't even do that. So, you know, she just sleeps with her eyes open. And because it's a nondescript disease that's hitting her, they can pretty much just do everything that they want. Now it's going like, okay, I barely have any vision anymore. And as long as the sleeping speech bubble is over her head, we're good. We're fine. Yes, the mountain peak touched by the breath of the phoenix. All right. So, where could this possible mountain peak be? And also, they say mountain peak, but that is actually an incorrect descriptor. We know the location that we have to be. I want to talk to the doctor. But of course, unfortunately, the gap between these two characters is not enough in order to go and speak with them. Come on. Okay, maybe I just have to leave. Come back? Oh, they moved. Lovely. Still gonna say things. Okay. Thank you, Doctor, for having hope. Thank you. I guess you get that from Eleanor, who has no hope left. So yeah, they say the mountain peak, which would assume that when you're going back to the Lascus Mountains, you would actually climb up back to the nest, and that's where you would find the Matox. Not true, actually. It's elsewhere, which, with so few screens that the mountains actually have, where else can you possibly go? Other than to get exploded by eruption here. Silence should be a good ability to use, although the chances of being able to silence one of the enemies is just way too low for it to actually be useful. And chances are you're going to be silencing an enemy that has no reason to be silenced at all, which is annoying. Like for instance, silence there, the only thing that was silenced was the knight. And here's another example of the combination spell there between Bloodsucker and Starlight. It's something that I'm still trying to figure out what exactly is going on with it, because when it comes to it, that combination can lead to a couple of results. One is Bloodsucker will either be either less powerful and hurt the character who's using it, or it will just completely cancel everything out. I really don't have an idea of what is actually making it do one or the other than it could possibly be stat related or be related more towards level of characters. If the character is a higher level, like Celine is at this point, it could be just canceling each other out instead of actually doing anything. I really couldn't tell you. The mystery to me. Lie.
Well, that's somewhere around 80 points.
All right. Way over here, on the east part before we get to the desert. This wasn't here before, and it only shows up when you're doing this private action. I feel like every time that Rena just says yes, I kind of want to use her voice. I want to use her voice sample that says yes, just to be a little bit funny. But I don't know. Maybe I'll do that next time. And then when you get back to Hurley and go into private action mode, this automatically happens there. Claude and Celine, they have no idea what's going on. They're just like, okay, you two go on ahead. And the doctor is just short. It is nice that they put this little scene in. Because they could have just went and had the doctor right on the same screen go and do nothing visually, and then everything's fine. But having the little back and forth between Rena and Ashton is a good decision. Guess we should go upstairs too. Okay, no, doctor. You can't just say this and just go, it's like, yeah, you went all this way in order to get the herb that was supposed to make her better, but willpower is supposed to do it? Nah, I call no. I call no at all. And that's it until you actually go back and reset the whole thing, because once you do that, head back into the house, and the aftermath shows Eleanor walking around. Perfectly fine. So yeah, willpower wouldn't... No, I'm not buying into the whole willpower will make a terminal illness go away. Just won't work. Not happening. And with that, Ashton now has access to a special ending for himself, which can be overwritten if you have enough relationships points with Ashton a little bit later. So we'll see if we get it or not. It might be a little bit skewed, but at least the flag is open. Now, the other thing that's happening in Hurley is a couple of places. One, there's this warehouse here, which is one of the most daunting screens, personally to me, in the game, because for the longest time, when I wasn't playing this with really paying attention to private actions at all, this just felt really like a weird screen. It's never used. The perspective of it is just intimidating, because you're kind of going like, okay, they made this place, but for what honest purpose? And there's a bunch of other things also happening in Hurley, especially when you are playing as Claude, that you really don't get any context for. So, but with Rena, all of that is explained. Like, it's amazing how much there is for, like, Rena's side in terms of private actions and going around towns and picking up a bunch of different pieces and whatnot that Claude just doesn't get. So when it comes to playing through, it's highly recommended that you play 2 playthroughs, one with Claude, one with Rena, because you're missing a whole lot when it comes to like the deeper stories and whatnot. I'm just picking up some sashimi because for food items, the sashimi is great for healing. Take that and that. That bee's my favorite yummy. You be good at shopping now. I can't imagine what accent could possibly be laid over that to make it more problematic. Eventually you say future enough and you lose all meaning of the word. So in the bar, there are 2 bandits who have slightly different designs to them because they are specifically involved with some dude named Zand. Yay, we get to deal with another bandit group again. And I do want to talk to this bartender, but the problem is when he's moving around, either you're too far away from him in order to activate him, so you have to get around to this corner. There we go. Great bartender. Yeah. He's definitely not a social bar, that's for sure. And then all the way up here, there's this mansion. Again, it's here, and nothing is explained to you. other than it's Zand's mansion. So you really have to put the pieces together here of going like, okay, you got a bunch of minions, you got a bunch of bandits here who are loyal to Zand, who every time you talk with any one of them, they threaten you. Again, nobody's going to explain anything to you, but it's always a good idea to go into this mansion anyway, Rena or Claude, nonetheless, because there are treasure chests to find in here. You just kind of go in here, you don't think about it too much. But in the back of your mind, you're going like, okay, what's the purpose of this place? Awkwardly here, this is a place that has a bunch of gear for Claude, of all people, even though he has no business being in here. Like, no private actions, nothing. It's only on Rena's side. But yeah, it's a big place. Detailed. Get some leather boots, at least. Because I'm going like, the only other big place that we've traveled through building-wise is Cross Castle, and it's slightly smaller, but it's doing effects like these where we get like cool perspective shots. I'm going like, for such a niche place, like, it's so odd that they would do it. I'm glad they did regardless, but it's still odd. And when you're going about exploring the whole place and doing this in private action mode, there really hasn't been anything around that is unique to being in private action mode until you begin to leave. Then you get this. So yeah, this is like very missable. It feels like you're like, you would completely miss this. Going like, why am I in private action mode? Nothing's actually happening. Nothing's different. Nothing's here for me to interact with. Until you get here. The one reason for why the warehouse has a screen inside of it. You can leave them alone, and that just makes the private action not happen. Same as the other ones. So yeah, Rena gets to kind of do some things independently. Step in, because no one else is around. Hmm. Thanks. Well, that's true. Now, in the bar, they did mention someone named Yule. So there they go. It's an odd beginning to this third story. You meet a person named Yule, who seems to be connected with Zand in some way. And that's about it. Until, you come back in. So we had a Celine story, we have an Ashton story, now we have a Rena story. The next time you come into Hurley in order to do a private action, you actually have to go and find Yule. Find Yule at the antique dealer in order to just connect back and go, okay, what's actually going on with this person? I don't think I've ever understood Yule's sprite, especially when it's going on with his pants situation. But Yule is an apprentice sailor. He's a bit brash. But if he causes no more problems, he will be able to pretty much escape from this situation. Not have to deal with it anymore. Well, good, I guess. And once learning about that, that's kind of all we were able to do, so we can just leave once again. Again, we get pieces, we get crumbs in Hurley that through the main story, we just simply don't get. Except, we're not done the private action yet. Hi, boys. I mean, Claude and Ashton are just on the other side of the pier. And get brought to Zand's mansion. I love that we wake up sitting in a chair and not, on the bunk bed right next to us. Like, that would be awkward because, we would have to be on the top bunk in order to show off the complete sprite of Rena. So I get why. But then again, it doesn't have to be a bunk bed that's right there. It could have just been a regular bed. So yeah, Rena's right. Yule is also here somewhere. Now that we've kind of made a connection to him. And apart from that, nothing really else is new with Zand's mansion. Like, you can talk with the minions and they'll say the exact same thing. So we just gotta have to find the place where Yule is. And also no new music changes. Like, again, we were knocked out, brought here, and we were able to just freely roam around. Seems a little bit odd. Oh, there he is. If I had a little bit more emotional attachment to Yule, I would be a little bit more concerned, but that's for the game to do. Your father will certainly understand. They haven't talked enough to even know that Rena doesn't really have a father. And so, we get to fight Zand.
I won't lose.
Another bandit leader. It is a one-on-one fight, so depending on how proficient you feel about fighting with Rena, this could either be a difficult fight, easy fight, pretty much impossible fight to win, because depending on whether or not you win or lose this fight, something different will happen. So yeah, you can choose to lose this fight, like so, because it's rather easy to do. And if you lose the fight, it's argued that it's the better thing to have happen. Although again, all of these circumstances are just very strange. Because, yeah, Rena's, from what we can understand based on what we're shown here, Rena is just like incapacitated, thrown out of a window, possibly on the east wing or the west wing, depending on how they want to orientate themselves, and left unconscious for Claude to find. You know, the best outcome. Also, Yule still in the building, and Claude is not concerned in the slightest. The problem is, we can't even go back into the mansion anymore because of what we experienced. I don't want to come here anymore. Zand's in there, and based on our defeat, Rena won't go back in. So we can only assume that Yule dies in that scenario.
Wrong.
That's the bad end, in my opinion. So let's do the good ending and beat this guy. So Zand is, how should I put it? He's kind of okay to deal with. He's rather simple in terms of his skill set. He's definitely more dangerous in the physical department because of his rapier/lance that he has, which means that he has a tremendous amount of range. We're going to have problems in the defense department, but depending on your level, again, Rena is around level 25, 26 for me. She's able to take a couple hits, but if you're doing this, again, a lot earlier, you can have bigger problems, especially since he casts magic, especially Deep Freeze, which, as you can see, freezes you. It freezes you for about 10 seconds, but in that 10 seconds, he can definitely rock you if he chooses to do so. He either likes to thrust at you or do that two-shot. And kind of going back and forth between doing spells and items. Because when it comes to his AI, he likes to do a physical attack and just kind of sit there for a couple seconds before moving on to his next action. So you want to take advantage of that. In addition, you can just kind of kite and rope him around, moving around the battlefield. You use a couple items as you go through. Like maybe try some of the other battle items, because again, it's only Rena, so you gotta have to be careful with the whole thing. He doesn't want to be confused very easily. I want him off of my pace, so I can't destroy him because he's technically a boss, but I can confuse him, and that gave me enough of a window for me to get out of the way to fully heal. So the thing with fighting Zand is that the easy method is actually the best method. Just kind of keep him in a corner. Keep him against the wall. Try to keep close to him is pretty much what's going on, and then just repeatedly pummel him. If this is your first playthrough, he's a little bit easier to deal with because of Earth difficulty. He has 6,000 HP on Earth difficulty, but again, we're fighting him on Galaxy difficulty, so he actually has 9,000, so he takes a few more hits. Not only does he have Deep Freeze, but he also can potentially heal himself, but he can only heal himself for about 120 hit points, so his healing ability is not that much of a threat. As long as you keep up on him, keep interrupting him, and keep your HP up, you should be okay.
Oh, good.
And that's all for Rena. And yeah, Zand disappears. We don't get much more out of him. Pretty one-dimensional in terms of he wants to be strong with his bandit group. Compared to the other relationships that happened in these three stories, Rena and Yule's is, I guess, the most relaxed and least informal. You can almost say it's playful in that regard. But it's not like Celine and Chris getting married eventually, or whatever is going to be happening with Ashton and Eleanor. Out of the three couples, there really isn't going to be much happening with Yule and Rena, other than kind of mutual respect for one another. Yule does bring up this invitation. Although I will say, it's like, Yule, I don't believe you even have a place to stay in this town. Yeah, it's just not going to happen. We got two adventuring hearts here. Think I can be tied down by one woman. Yeah, again, his place, don't think it exists. Bye. I like that they put him just below the wall there because, yeah, we can kind of see each other there. But if you put him below the wall, then you're able to just get rid of the sprite entirely. And yeah, he's gone, and the rest of the minions are also gone as well. This place is completely barren. If you go all the way to the bar as well, the bandits are also gone there too. So, you know, whatever threat Zand was doing to the town of Hurley no longer is happening at all. Yep, they're gone. The other people here don't have anything different to say, but a change is a change. So, this is kind of the good ending, because, one, we save a person's life, but it's the bad ending because when we defeat Zand, we actually lose relationship points with every other male character with Rena. So depending on what you're trying to do in terms of endings, you probably avoid this kind of thing happening. So there's Yule. We'll meet him at his place, which is just the docks. And with that, I think we've had enough of stories. Next time, let's cross the ocean. See you next time, everyone.